they have a car spot, it's not the first thing they think about.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't have a car spot and you need one, it's on your mind all the time.
Yeah. I wanted to move a little back in time, actually. Before
Sure.
before the time you decided you need a booking app at JBS, I wanted to learn more about challenges you were facing with your parking spaces and the booking and sharing, all of that.
When I commenced, that's when I found out that the company was at capacity with its parking spaces, and we're constantly growing. So as we were taking on, more staff, of course, everyone was asking about parking. The business was noticing that there was everyone had an allocated car spot that had a car spot. So management was noticing that there was a lot of empty car spots in our shared parking space. We have a lot of staff members visiting from other sites as well, and so they'd come for a day or 2 days and they wouldn't have anywhere to park. They would be driving here. A lot of our people that have allocated spots here, they could be salespeople, or they could be traveling, or obviously they're on annual leave, and their spaces were just going empty. So yeah, one of my first tasks I was given was to sort out the car park issue. And thankfully, the company that I had come from was using Parkalot. So that's where I heard of Parkalot, first of all. But of course, I did do a Google search and I reached out to a couple of different companies. We're based in Australia. I reached out to one in New Zealand, and yourselves, of course, because I had experience with Parkalot through my old work. And the story goes from there.
All right. I'm curious also to learn what convinced you to choose Parkalot, except for the fact that you already knew us from your previous company.
Yeah. Well, it always comes down to price, doesn't it? So, I was looking at the 2 or 3 different quotes that I had, and Parkalot was obviously very affordable, to be honest. And normally when you're looking at something and it might be the cheaper option, you might get red flags because you're wondering why it is the cheaper option. But because I had had experience with the business previously, I felt comfortable going ahead, even being so far away, because the other ones were more local. But looking at different things side by side, it was the best offer as well.
Okay, so here's the moment when you decided to go with Parkalot, and I imagine you had specific goals in your mind and hopes, maybe. What were they at the moment when you started with the implementation?
I was hoping for a very easy rollout. I was hoping that everyone would jump on board with me. I got approval from management very quickly because they were wanting a solution very quickly. So they were fantastic. And then it was more people with parking spots, with allocated spots, just wanting them to know that this wasn't a threat to them because they still had their allocated spot. And yeah, just hoping that they would come on board quite quickly, which, the majority did. It's more just you have to keep reminding them. I send them an email every week. Don't forget to, release your car spot if you're not here next week, or if you're traveling, or if you're on annual leave. And they're all very comfortable doing it now. But, there was a little bit of caution initially. I think they felt that they not would lose their car spot, but maybe they would lose control of their car spot, which of course they don't.
So these were the hopes and objectives, and you had some concerns regarding people being cautious, right? About starting to use Parkalot and share their spaces. Were there any other concerns that appeared at the very initial stages?
Some people aren't used to change, but that's got nothing to do with the system. That's more people. So that's a people, not problem, but a people issue. Some people are just uncomfortable with change or technology. But even the technology side is very easy. How many apps people have on their phones these days. I know it's another app, but it's 2 seconds to release your car spot, or 2 seconds to reserve one if there's one available. So yes, I don't think we've got any roadblocks with that anymore. I think everyone's on board and pick it up pretty quickly.
But I imagine the first weeks or months, maybe as you mentioned, you were like reminding people and trying to onboard them, right?
Yeah, and we still do. We still do. It's just, people are busy. That's not, if they have a car spot, it's not the first thing they think about. But if you don't have a car spot and you need one, it's on your mind all the time.
Yeah. So I'm actually curious about the people who didn't have the car spot allocated. Did you hear any reactions from them, or what were their reactions to implementing
the feedback was fantastic straight away, and we even did a little survey prior to commencing. And the feedback on that, we just said we're researching different things, and the research was obviously very positive, because it's a perk, really. Not everyone has the car spot, so if there's the opportunity to get one 3 days out of 5, it's a perk, isn't it? So and then once it was implemented, there was lots of positive feedback from staff members.
So you briefly mentioned the implementation. Now I would like to go to it into more detail. Could you describe the process a little bit? How did it go? Were there any obstacles, or something went surprisingly smoothly?
Look, I do not recall any roadblocks. Like I said, there was a time difference, but that wasn't an issue, because it was still a very quick turnaround. We went back and forth a couple of times on very small things, but there might have been things that I had missed or I hadn't thought of. So no, there was no roadblocks. And then the training was really simple. And even 12 months on, whether we're adding people, removing people, allocating or changing people that own certain car spots, everything's really simple. It's a very, very user-friendly system.
That's amazing to hear.
It's all been a really smooth process.
And after Parkalot was implemented, was there a particular event or maybe a moment when you realized, wow, it's working now? And now, like, this particular piece of workplace works a little better. Did you have any realization of that kind?
It's all been smooth sailing, thankfully. We haven't had any issues. So as soon as it was implemented, I was very happy. I was extremely happy, because I felt like I had achieved my first little goal with the business. And it was a big goal for me personally, because it affects every single person in the office pretty much. And if anything, it's people like, they haven't logged in for the first 2 months, and then they're like, oh, I didn't get the email. And they did. But it's as simple as just resending, going into the system, resend the email. It's a click. It's easy. It's like, no worries, I'll just resend it. So, even things like that, if someone didn't sign up straight away, it's not an arduous process. It's as simple as clicking a button. If anyone had reached out to me and asked me, anyone that I know, if they were looking for a parking solution, I would definitely recommend Parkalot to anyone, to be honest. So 5 stars.
Wow.